Have you ever felt the world grind to a halt, not in a moment of joy, like watching a sunset, but in a slow-motion nightmare where your life unravels before your eyes? That was me, standing on my front lawn in Willow Creek, a quiet suburb of Richmond, Virginia, as the evening sky glowed orange. I was watering my roses when red and blue police lights flashed across my perfectly trimmed grass, turning a peaceful night into a public spectacle. My name is James Carter, a 65-year-old retired mechanical engineer, and I've lived in my two-story brick home for 25 years. I've raised 3 kids, paid my taxes, and kept my yard pristine. My biggest crime? Maybe leaving the garage door open too long. Yet, there I was, heart pounding, as 2 officers approached, one young and jittery, the other older, looking like he'd rather be fishing. The reason for this circus stood on the property line, arms crossed, smirking like she'd just won the lottery. Her name was Linda Harris, my neighbor of 6 years, a woman in her late 60s with a perm so stiff it could deflect bullets and a permanent scowl that could curdle milk. "That's him, officers," Linda declared, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. "He's trespassing on my property." Her phone, still in her hand, was the weapon she'd used to summon this chaos. I stood there, garden hose dripping, a smudge of dirt on my shirt, utterly baffled. My property. I had the deed, the paid-off mortgage, and 25 years of tax receipts to prove it. This was my home, where my wife, Evelyn, and I had hosted cookouts, where our kids learned to ride bikes. The oak tree by the curb? I planted it as a sapling. Now it towered over the house. The younger officer, badge reading Thompson, stopped a few feet away, hand near his holster. "Sir, please put down the hose," he said, voice tight. I complied, coiling it carefully, keeping my hands visible. I'm a black man in a mostly white neighborhood. I know the drill. My father taught me, and I taught my son. Stay calm, no sudden moves, be respectful, even when every fiber of your being screams injustice. The older officer, Reynolds, turned to Linda. "Ma'am, you said he's trespassing. Can you explain?" "He's been out here for an hour, spraying water everywhere," Linda said, pointing at me like I was a stray dog. "This isn't his house." The audacity of her words hung in the air. I wanted to laugh, to scream, but I kept my voice low. "This is my house. I'm James Carter, 142, Maple Lane." Thompson asked for ID. My wallet was inside because who carries it while gardening? He went to get it, walking into my home like it wasn't mine, while neighbors peeked from their porches, whispering. The humiliation burned. Reynolds pressed Linda. "You've never seen this man before?" She snapped. "I see him all the time, lurking, watching." Her contradiction was blatant, her accusations dripping with prejudice. I stood silent, a statue of forced calm, as memories of Linda's past complaints flooded back me. Jazz music too loud, my grandson's basketball hoop an eyesore, a package on my porch deemed suspicious. I'd swallowed those slights, stayed the good neighbor, but this? Calling 911 because I was watering my lawn? This was war. Thompson returned with my wallet, confirming my address. Reynolds sighed, the weight of 1,000 frivolous calls in his eyes. "Ma'am, he lives here." He was watering his plants. Linda's jaw tightened. He looked suspicious. "You can't be too careful." The officers apologized curtly, warned her about misusing 911, and left. Linda glared at me. "Put up a sign next time," she spat, storming off. I stood there, hose at my feet, humiliation coiling in my gut. But beneath it, something colder sparked an engineer's resolve. Linda thought she could control me with a phone call. She was about to learn what happens when you push a man who builds systems for a living. That night, Evelyn was livid, pacing our kitchen. "That woman tried to ruin us," she fumed, her voice trembling. I wanted to storm over, give Linda a piece of my mind, but I knew better. Anger would make us the villains in her story. "No, Evelyn," I said, pulling her close. "We won't yell. We'll be smart. We'll be patient." In my study, surrounded by books on thermodynamics and drafting tools, a plan took shape. Linda's prized tulip bed, her HOA yard of the month, pride, was her weakness. I'd use it against her, legally, brilliantly. I sketched a map of our property's 90 by 120 feet, identical lots. The property line a sacred boundary I'd always respected. Linda? Not so much. Her landscapers blew leaves onto my driveway. Her lilacs encroached on my yard. No more. I'd replace my outdated sprinkler system with a custom one. 6 zones would water my lawn perfectly, but a 7th zone 7 would be my secret weapon. Small, hidden pop-up sprinklers, 2 inches from the property line, aimed at her tulips and pristine lawn. A smart controller would let me strike from my phone, precisely and undetectably. Monday, I visited the county planning office, confirming my property lines and local water regulations. Everything was legal. At Home Depot, I loaded my cart, 200 feet of PVC pipe, connectors, a trench digger, and a Rakio smart controller. For Zone 7, I chose brass quarter-pattern nozzles low, flat sprays perfect for a 15-foot arc into Linda's yard. Back home, Evelyn watched me unload. "Have you lost your mind, James?" she teased. "This," I said, patting the controller, "is peace through plumbing. I spent days digging trenches, laying pipes, and wiring valves." Zone 7 sprinklers were nearly invisible, flush with the turf. Carol watched, peeking through her blinds, probably thinking I'd snapped. Let her. Every pipe, every nozzle was defiance, transforming my anger into a monument of resilience. By week's end, the system was ready, controlled by an app. I tested zones 1 through 6 flawless. Zone 7 waited, my ace in the hole. The next phase was provocation. Linda loved HOA rules, so I'd use them. The bylaws banned water runoff onto neighboring properties, and complaints triggered inspections. I needed her to report me. One hot afternoon, I saw her gardening, white gloves pristine. From my couch, I opened the app, selected Zone 7, and ran it for 60 seconds. 6 streams hit her tulips, then vanished. She stood, confused, checking the sky for rain. I smiled. Over days, I repeated it 90 seconds, then 2 minutes with Zone 6, creating a puddle on her lawn, mimicking a faulty sprinkler. Sunday, she snapped. "Your sprinklers are flooding my yard," she shrieked, pointing at the puddle. I feigned shock. "A leak? I'll fix it, Linda." "So sorry." My apology was Oscar-worthy. I knew she'd report mesh crave control. 2 days later, an HOA letter arrived. A complaint about water runoff. Inspection scheduled for Friday with Mr. Harold Jenkins. The trap was set. Thursday night, I tested Zone 7 in the darkness. The spray was perfect, soaking her tulips while my lawn stayed dry. Friday morning, I dressed humbly khakis, collared shirt and waited. Linda, in a floral dress, pruned her bushes, eyeing me smugly. At 10 a.m., Jenkins arrived, clipboard in hand, all business. "Show me the system," he said. I led him to the controller, boasting its eco-friendly design. "Let's test Zone 6, where the complaint was." Zone 6 sprayed my lawn perfectly, not a drop on Linda's side. Jenkins nodded. "No runoff here." Linda's smile faded. I frowned, thoughtful. "Maybe a crossed wire? I have a test zone, Zone 7, for a future bed. Let's try it." Jenkins agreed. I met Linda's hopeful gaze, tapped my phone, and Zone 7 erupted. Water blasted her tulips, petals wilting, her lawn a swamp. She screamed, "He's attacking my yard." Jenkins stared, baffled, tracing the spray to my tiny, hidden sprinklers. I stopped it, feigning horror. "The wires must be crossed." "I'm so sorry, Linda." She accused me of sabotage, but Jenkins saw a plausible error. He noted my malfunction, then turned to Linda. "Your drainage is pooling. That's a violation. You'll need to regrade." Her jaw dropped. She'd been outmaneuvered, publicly humiliated, and her own rules turned against her. Jenkins left, advising me to fix the wiring. Linda, defeated, slunk inside, her dress muddy. Evelyn rushed out, laughing. "You're a plumbing genius." The neighbors, watching, smirked. The narrative shifted. I was the hapless engineer, Linda, the overzealous complainer. Her tulips never recovered. She paid thousands to regrade her yard, her HOA crown tarnished. I fixed Zone 7 publicly, swapping wires, but kept the nozzle-as-me silent deterrent. A year later, my roses bloom brighter. Linda's quiet, her complaints gone. I won, not with shouts, but with a system of precise, legal, poetic checkmate. Justice isn't always loud. Sometimes, it's a well-aimed stream of water, washing away a bully's pride while you hold your dignity tight. What do you think can quiet justice trump violence and injustice? Have you faced a bully like Linda? Share your stories in the comments. Let's debate. Is patience and cunning the ultimate weapon, or does confrontation have its place? Your voice matters.